Welcome to part 16 for our Galaxy Defiance space shooter tutorial series using components in Godot 4. In this video, we're going to be finishing up the pink enemy. We started in the last one. The video was getting kind of long. I decided to split it into two, although it probably won't be, this video will be a little bit shorter. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, well, you know what? It's probably not going to be that much shorter. We're going to create a pink enemy projectile. So let's first start by coming to create a new scene. We'll call this new scene pink enemy projectile. And we're going to give this projectile, let's give it an animated sprite. There we go. Let's create some new sprite frames for it. We'll import in the pink enemy projectile here. I think I don't use all of these if I remember correctly. Oh, maybe I do. So that means we've got 1 vertically and 4 horizontally. Grab all those just like that, add 4 frames. We'll leave the frames, the FPS at 5. We'll autoplay this. Let's watch it to make sure. See, it just kind of blinks like that. Okay, we'll stop it. We're going to create a hitbox component for this and make sure to set the collision layer, or the mask on this hitbox component to target the player's hurtbox. Then we'll create a collision shape, and just shrink it down for this projectile. It's about that big. Might go one smaller actually, just to give the player a little bit of room to avoid getting hit by it. Now it's going to need a move component. So select the pink projectile, and it's going to move down with a speed of 30, which is going to be slower for a projectile. We're going to need a visibility on-screen notifier. No, not enabler. Not enabler, a notifier. There we go. We'll have a scale component. And we'll just scale the sprite. Get its sprite. There we go. And I think that'll be it. Oh, actually, I remember how I did this. I gave it a little bit of a... Did I give it a little bit of a wobble? I did. I made it oscillate a little bit. Let's set our visibility notifier down here. I think making it oscillate could be fun. It adds some flair, I guess, makes the component feel unique. Or not the component, the projectile feel unique compared to the player's projectiles. So let's do it. I'm just going to use an animation player here. Animation players can be used to animate almost anything in the scene, which is really useful. And we're just going to be animating the... I want to create an anchor for it, actually. So let's add a new, just node 2D here. And we're going to call this anchor. And we're going to put our sprite and our hitbox both under this anchor here. Now we might have to click on our scale component, make sure that it still knows where the sprite is. It looks like it does, so that's good. But the reason we're putting this all under an anchor is because we want to oscillate from side to side, and we want to, instead of having to animate both the animated sprite and the hitbox to make sure they're always lined up with each other, I'm just putting them under an anchor node here, a node 2D, so that I can then animate that instead, and it will move both of them because they're children of this anchor. So let's click on our animation player. We're going to add a new animation. We'll call it oscillate. I think that's how you spell it. I think it's 2 L's. Is it 2 L's? Oh, geez. Let me know in the comments below. We'll set the position of our anchor to -4 in the X. That will move it over like that. and we'll just key this frame by clicking key up here. We don't need to key rotation, so I'm going to unclick that. We'll just key here. Well, technically we could just key here as well. Either one works. Now we'll come to halfway, so about here, and we'll set the position to +4, and we'll key that. Now you can see it will animate between -4 and +4, but it doesn't animate back. And the way to make it animate back is just to turn on looping for this animation. Now it'll animate back and forth. Now if we play the animation, you can see it's kind of jarring. It does oscillate, but it's not smooth. So if we come to our frames here, instead of having it be linear, we do this, it'll drop down and have it be cubic. It'll make it kind of oscillate more smoothly between the two. Now our projectile oscillates quite nicely and it looks good, I think. So we're going to save as pink enemy projectile. Do I have projectiles? I do, so we'll just save it in here. Pink enemy projectile. Now we can come back into our pink enemy. And from here, we're going to add another state. So let's add a new state. This one won't be timed. Yeah, definitely. This one won't be timed. We'll just do a state component for this one. Just for the sake of organization, I'm going to put it above the pause state because that's where it's actually going to run. We'll call this the fire state. We'll give it a spawner component, this, and we'll have this spawner component spawn the projectile, the pink enemy projectile scene. There we go. We want to get access to our spawner component, so I'm going to right click. Yeah, I'm going to right click and do access is scene unique name. We already have a spawner component up here. So I want to rename this one just for clarity's sake. We'll call it we'll call it projectile spawner component. Then I'll do access is scene unique name. Just really want to try and be clear here since there's two spawner components. One of them is for our explosion effect, remember? So now we can drag in the spawner component and our fire state. We'll give it a scene unique name as well. Click on it, hold control, drag and drop it. There we go. We've got the fire state. Now, again, I got to remind you about this. You've got to make sure that your states are set up and they're all children of the state here. Because you might accidentally set the fire state as a child of the move state, and then you're going to be in trouble. The way that they're organized here in the scene right here matters. So make sure that they're children of states and make sure that their components are children of them. It matters. Now we're going to, instead of connecting to pause state enabled on our move side, we're going to connect to fire. We're going to connect to an anonymous function here. And this function is going to do some stuff. What it's going to do is it's going to get our scale component and it's going to tween scale. So the enemy will scale up when it fires the bullet, just like the player does. We'll get our projectile spawner component here, and we'll do spawn. And we're going to pass in our global position. Now, why are we passing in the global position this time? Shouldn't it by default just use the global position of our spawner component? Yes, it should. However, our spawner component is a child of a node. And that's kind of silly to say out loud, but nodes don't have a position, which means that it won't this fire state isn't actually following the pink enemy around. It doesn't have a position. Even though it's a child of pink enemy, because it doesn't have a position, it doesn't follow the enemy around. Now you could make your states a node 2D, There's an argument to be made for that with this system, actually, and I might end up doing that in the future. But for now, just to make things simple, we're just going to pass in the global position because even though this does have a position, because it's a child of something that doesn't, it loses that position information. So this has a position, but this position never gets passed into the fire state because it doesn't have one, and therefore never gets passed into, never gets passed into the child, and therefore it can't be passed into the grandchild. Let's put it that way. If the child doesn't have it, the grandchild can't have it. So we need to pass in the global position when we're spawning the bullet. And then we need to say fire state dot disable. Yes, I forgot to do this for code completion. And we'll do our moves, we'll do our spawner component as well. Although it seemed to work. What? Didn't it give us, it gave us spawn. I don't know, whatever. Fire state dot disable and fire state dot emit signal, or let's see, fire state dot state finished. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. Oh yeah, we got it. We do have to do fire state dot finish dot emit. There we go, because it's a signal. This is a function, but this is a signal. We want to emit that signal. Now our pause state is going to Now we need our fire state. Fire state dot state finished dot connect pause state dot start. No, enable. Yeah, pause state dot enable. Okay. There we go. Now we're going full circle again. Our move down state, when move down is finished, we enable move side. When move side is finished, we fire the projectile and we emit that the fire state is finished. And then when fire state is finished, so this is basically enabling the fire state, isn't it? In fact, we don't have to enable it here because we never actually enable it. Let's do that. You don't have to do this, but just for the sake of, this is how it should be done. The only reason we don't have to do it is because it doesn't move during the fire state or anything. But if it did move during the fire state, we'd want to do this. So I'm just going to do it just to be safe. So we enable the fire state and do these other things. And then when fire state is finished, we enable the pause state. When pause state is finished, we enable the move state, move down state. And let's see if this actually works. Moves down, moves to the right, fires a bullet, which isn't oscillating, by the way. Because I forgot to turn on autoplay for this animation. There we go. Okay, so now it should work. And also we want it to start centered. So our reset track here, we'll just set reset to be 0. And then we'll key that value in the reset track. Can we do that? Yeah, there we go. So it's set to be 0 here. Oh, I have reset auto playing. We want oscillate to autoplay. And then we'll switch back to reset. Okay. Reset is made by default. It did fire though, and it does pause. So let's see how this looks. Fires, then it pauses, and then it starts over. And that bullet can hit the player. Perfect. But our pink enemy projectile isn't finished yet. There's still some stuff we need to do to it. opening up in my reference project. We're going to give it a script. And inside this script, we're going to get ready to its we're going to get access to the scale component and the hitbox component and the visible on-screen notifier. And inside of the ready function, we'll just say scale component dot tween scale. Get autocomplete here on these two. So scale component dot tween scale. And did we set up the scale component? I want to set it to 2, not 1.5, and set it to 1, just like the player. So it's going to scale more. Now we want to say visible on-screen notifier dot screen exited dot connect, and then queue free. And then we also want to say hitbox component dot hit hurtbox dot connect, and we want to queue free, but we want to unbind one argument because hit hurtbox has an argument, so we're going to unbind that. That should be it. So make sure that it frees itself when it's outside the view, that it destroys itself when it hits the player, and that the scale looks better. Let's test this to see. There we go. And if it hits the player, it gets destroyed as well. Perfect. Looks good. Now we're going to come into our enemy generator. And this is the last part that we need to do to get the enemy set up. And we're going to do a new timer. We'll call it pink enemy spawn timer. This. And we'll set the timer to, I don't know, 10 seconds, I guess, for now. We're going to be changing this later. We'll drag into here. We'll export pink enemy scene, just like we did with the others. Grab it, pink enemy scene, drop it right there. And then inside of here, we'll just say pink enemy spawn timer dot timeout dot connect handle spawn dot bind. We'll pass in our pink enemy scene and our pink enemy spawn timer. And yeah, let's do that. We'll come back to world. In the next video, we'll be probably modifying that as well. We're going to have to wait 10 seconds for a peak enemy to come in. So should have had one by now. So something's not working right. Right? We should have had one by now. Enemy generator, pink enemy. Oh, we forgot to set it to auto start and one shot. Classic. Here we go. There we go. There's our pink enemy. Shooting the projectile at us, pausing, then moving down again and moving left to right. What a good little enemy, doing exactly what it's been told in its state system. functioning exactly how it's intended to. Giving us a lot of score too. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. As far as this series is going, it's almost finished. I have a video. I'm going to do a video for adding sound effects, where we add in the sound effects. I'm going to do a video for increasing the difficulty. So right now the difficulty is just the same, right? It doesn't increase. So we're gonna use the score value to increase the difficulty over time. And I'm going to do a video on saving and loading the high score. And that's gonna be very basic saving and loading system. Once those are done, the series is going to be finished. So there's only 3 more videos that I need to record. And of course, when you're watching this, there's actually so we're getting close to the end of this series. I've honestly enjoyed it quite a bit. It seems like you all have enjoyed it. The feedback that I've gotten so far has been very positive. A lot of you like this component system. I'm sure there's still ways for me to improve it and make it better. And it's useful to have your feedback on that as well. But it seems like the core of the idea is working well, and it resonates with people. They like it. I certainly like it. That's why I decided to make a YouTube series about it. And I'm looking into doing like a full-on course using this system as well, since the feedback has been quite positive. So that's going to be it for this video, though. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support me, you can check out the link in the description to my Godot courses, and I will see you all in the next video.